Welcome to the deep dive. Let me pose a scenario to you right at the start.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if someone told you that achieving a profound, life-altering spiritual awakening didn't require you to, pack your bags and travel to a remote ashram in the Himalayas?
Right, or spend thousands of dollars on one of those silent weekend retreats.
Exactly. And perhaps most controversially, what if they told you that you absolutely do not need to surrender your autonomy to a guru?
That's the big one.
It is. What if the actual tools for mastering your own mind and body were already sitting right there in your living room? Or, I don't know, waiting for you in a paperback thriller on your nightstand?
A thriller.
Yeah, literally a fiction book. Today we are unpacking a truly fascinating set of source materials detailing the methods of a man named Osman, who is widely known as the blind Muslim yogi.
And our mission for this deep dive is to extract and really analyze the highly systematic, completely independent, and honestly surprisingly practical protocols he has refined over the course of 50 years.
Yeah, this isn't about esoteric, mystical jargon. We are talking about actionable, physical, and cognitive routines.
It's a vital perspective for you to consider, especially when you look at the context of our modern wellness landscape, because we live in an era of absolute information overload where spiritual seeking has been heavily commodified.
Highly commodified.
Right. There is this constant underlying pressure to find a master to guide you, to buy into expensive wellness trends, or to adhere to these rigid ancient hierarchies. And Osman's approach just disrupts that entire model.
He completely pares it down.
He does. He focuses on radical autonomy, rigorous safety protocols, and what he describes as a purely scientific approach to ancient practices. He treats spiritual energy with the same precise cause and effect methodology as physical medicine.
Which is so refreshing.
Yeah.
For anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed or alienated by the gatekeeping of the spiritual community, Osman's framework offers a highly empowering, self-directed alternative.
To really understand how he arrived at this framework, though, we have to start with his background.
Right, because he is certainly not your typical modern mindfulness coach. We are talking about 50 years of advanced level practice in yoga and meditation, and 46 years of teaching across more than 100 countries.
And he's a master-level bioenergy healer. The sources detail that he possesses telepathic healing capabilities, utilizing the principles of quantum entanglement.
Which sounds like sci-fi, but he applies it practically.
Exactly. He specializes in critical care, recovery, and terminal illnesses. And here's the detail that really sets the stage for everything we are going to discuss today. He attained his first samadhi.
That state of complete blissful nirvana.
Yes. He attained that at the age of 19, entirely on his own, without a guru or formal initiation.
Which is an incredibly rare trajectory when you look at traditional spiritual literature. The sheer volume of his dedication is difficult to overstate. According to the materials, during certain stages of his life, he was practicing up to 18 hours a day.
18 hours?
Yeah. Even now, he maintains that he practices a minimum of 8 to 10 hours a day, simply to, as he puts it, sharpen the sword.
It is this intense, immersive dedication that he credits for his uncommon ability to facilitate healing on very serious levels with such a high success rate.
And because of the intense energetic demand of that specific bioenergy work, his private healing treatments are premium services, and his consultation fees are not inexpensive.
But he makes a very strict ethical distinction in his work, which I find really important. His healing services are offered on a complimentary basis.
Right. He is adamant that they are never a replacement for the conventional medical field.
No, never. It's meant as something to enhance what might be lacking in standard medical treatments.
It's a really important distinction. He is very clear that no one should be abandoning their doctors. But looking at the source material, the thing that immediately jumps out is his incredibly controversial stance on the traditional spiritual hierarchy.
His anti-guru thesis.
Exactly. Osman argues that 90 to 99% of gurus currently operating are charlatans.
That is a massive claim.
A massive claim. And he goes further to say that even the genuine ones, that remaining 1%, are almost always limited to a single school of thought. They operate from a place of, well, my way is the only way.
Right.
He actually compares the act of taking spiritual vows under a guru to a form of modern-day slavery.
That is a heavy, highly provocative statement to make in this
It's
space.
incredibly provocative.
It is, but if we analyze the psychological mechanics behind the guru-disciple relationship, his critique begins to make a lot of structural
It
sense.
is so.
Well, human beings possess a deeply ingrained psychological desire for certainty. We naturally want to outsource our spiritual and existential responsibility.
Because doing the work yourself is terrifying.
Exactly. It is incredibly comforting to have an authority figure, a guru, a master, a teacher, tell you exactly what to do, what to eat, what to wear, and how to think. It alleviates the terrifying burden of figuring out the universe on your own.
So by tearing down that hierarchy and comparing it to servitude, Osman is challenging you to take radical ownership of your own consciousness. But I'm trying to picture how that independence actually plays out, though. Traditional guru-led spirituality often functions like a gated community. They put up massive walls, charge an entry fee, sometimes ranging from $500 to upward of $6,500 for a retreat, and make you follow a very specific rulebook.
And Osman is essentially standing outside the gate, handing out the master key to the public for free.
Right, but how did he gather all this knowledge if he refused to play by the rules of the gated community?
He bypassed the gatekeepers through sheer relentless exploration. Because he wasn't tied to a specific vow or a single master, he was free to study extensively across multiple traditions.
The sources note he studied the philosophies of the Far East, the Middle East, the West, and importantly, secular scientific communities.
He cross-referenced these different schools of thought to find the common underlying mechanical ground. He approached spirituality not as a dogma to be believed, but as an open-source technology to be tested and refined.
He is looking for the physiological and cognitive levers that actually produce the awakening, regardless of the cultural packaging.
Precisely.
Which leads us to perhaps the most surprising part of this entire deep dive.
The reading.
Yes, the reading. If we aren't meditating in a cave under a master's watchful eye, and we aren't chanting in an expensive ashram, how did Osman develop the foundational focus required for this level of spiritual realization?
You assume it started with a child sitting in the lotus position in perfect silence for hours.
Exactly. But the sources reveal something completely counterintuitive. Osman says he developed his intense mindfulness primarily through reading fiction.
Fiction.
From the age of 10, he became an obsessive reader. He never went to bed before midnight, using reading as his extensive primary mindfulness practice.
This completely upends the traditional narrative of what mindfulness looks like. We usually define meditation as the deliberate emptying of the mind, or the precise observation of the breath. But if we define mindfulness more accurately as sustained, single-pointed concentration, then intensely reading a complex narrative absolutely qualifies as a rigorous cognitive exercise.
But I have to push back on that a little bit. How does reading a fiction book possibly equate to an ancient meditation practice? Aren't those two completely different brain states?
They seem different on the surface.
I mean, we're talking about Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy, D.H. Lawrence, Jeffrey Archer, Harold Robbins, even steamy thriller novels. Isn't reading a thriller just escapism? How does getting lost in a plot about a detective build the mental circuitry for spiritual enlightenment?
It is a fair question, and the distinction between escapism and training comes down to the depth of immersion and the duration of the focus.
Okay.
When you are deeply, intensely immersed in a narrative for hours on end, as Osman was, staying up until midnight every night as a child, your brain enters a flow state.
Right, the flow state.
In this state, the chatter of what neuroscientists call the default mode network begins to quiet down. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-referential thoughts, rumination, anxiety about the past, and projection into the future.
So it shuts off the ego, essentially.
Exactly. When you are entirely consumed by the descriptive world of Charles Dickens, your ego essentially goes offline. You are holding multiple characters, timelines, and sensory details in your working memory without breaking concentration.
And the cognitive muscles required to do that are the exact same muscles required to hold a complex visualization or a mantra during advanced meditation.
That is the mechanical link.
That reframes the concept of reading entirely. He specifically highlights Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes series as a major catalyst for him.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, he says that entering the mind of Sherlock Holmes, adopting his specific method of thinking, analyzing, and solving complex problems, made him a highly lucid and perceptive individual.
It wasn't just about enjoying the story, it was about actively running his brain through the same deductive reasoning pathways that the character was using.
He was training his brain for relentless focus.
Precisely. He was using literature as a cognitive weight room. Think about what Sherlock Holmes represents.
Hyper-awareness of detail.
Yes, the exclusion of irrelevant information and the ability to draw massive conclusions from microscopic observations. By obsessively reading and internalizing that process, Osman was practicing a form of secular mindfulness.
He recognized intuitively that intensely focusing your attention, even on a popular fiction book, builds the neurocircuitry required for sustained, unbroken attention.
He didn't need a holy scripture to learn focus. A meticulously plotted thriller did the job perfectly because the mechanism of focus is what matters, not the content of the book.
Okay, so he builds this incredibly powerful, laser-focused mind through thousands of hours of reading. He has immense cognitive stamina. But this is where the source material takes a very serious turn.
Yes, the warnings.
Osman provides a massive caveat here. He warns that mental focus alone, no matter how sharp or sustained, is actually highly dangerous if it is not physically balanced.
This is where his scientific cause and effect approach really comes into focus.
He warns that intense mindfulness or meditation practices, if done in isolation, can cause energy to get stuck in what he calls pockets within the body, leading to involuntary and often dangerous Kundalini awakenings.
This is a critical point in his methodology. The term Kundalini is often thrown around in modern yoga studios as a purely positive, blissful awakening of energy.
Right, they treat it like a spa treatment.
But in the traditional sciences, it's treated with extreme caution. Kundalini refers to a dormant, highly potent evolutionary energy situated at the base of the spine.
And when it wakes up the wrong way.
When awakened prematurely or forcefully, such as through intense, ungrounded mental focus, it can rush through the nervous system like a tidal wave. If the body's energetic pathways are not clear, it causes severe physical and psychological distress.
The analogy he uses, or at least the best way I can conceptualize his warning, is like trying to run high-voltage electricity through an old house with faulty, ungrounded wiring.
That's a great way to look at it.
If you just crank up the power, you just engage in hours of intense mental mindfulness or meditation without upgrading the wires, the system is going to blow a fuse. The energy has nowhere to go.
Yes.
Osman specifically mentions an imbalance between the left and right sides of the body, pointing to the Ida and Pingala nadis. Can we break down what those terms actually mean in a physiological sense? Because if we're treating this scientifically, we need to understand the anatomy of this energy.
Certainly. In the yogic tradition, nadis are subtle energy channels, analogous to the nerves in our physical nervous system.
Okay.
The Pingala nadi is associated with the right side of the body and the left hemisphere of the brain. It represents masculine, solar, heating energy and correlates closely with our sympathetic nervous system.
That's our fight or flight drive, right?
Exactly. The Ida nadi is associated with the left side of the body and the right hemisphere of the brain. It represents feminine, lunar, cooling energy and correlates with the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest function.
So what Osman is explaining is that if you push the mind intensely while these two systems are out of balance, the energy gets trapped in these pockets or blockages,
leading to a physiological crisis. You essentially short-circuit the nervous system.
And a blown fuse in this context isn't just a metaphor. People who experience adverse Kundalini awakenings report terrifying symptoms, feeling like they are burning alive, experiencing severe muscle spasms, extreme anxiety, and a complete loss of grounding in reality.
It is a true psychological crisis.
So what is Osman's solution? How does he prepare the wiring of the house to handle this high-voltage cognitive energy he built up from all those late nights reading?
His solution is intensely physical. To prevent the energy from getting stuck, he insists on the practice of Hatha Yoga, or Tai Chi.
Hatha Yoga.
Yes. Hatha literally translates to sun, which is ha, and moon, which is tha, directly referencing the balancing of those Pingala and Ida energies we just discussed.
That makes perfect sense.
It involves physically bending, stretching, and compressing the body to systematically clear out the blockages in the nervous system. The source material notes that Osman practiced Hatha Yoga 1 to 2 times a week religiously from childhood.
He treats it not as a workout, but as an essential safety protocol to ground the electrical charge of his mind.
And the results of that safety protocol are staggering.
They really are. In 46 years of teaching across more than 100 countries, he claims to have had 0 students experience an adverse Kundalini awakening. Not a single one.
That is an epidemiological proof of his method right there.
He enforces these physical balancing protocols so strictly that the danger is entirely mitigated. And he highlights one specific practice that he considers an absolute non-negotiable rule.
Alternate nostril breathing.
Yes, and this is where his method bridges the esoteric and the deeply physiological. Alternate nostril breathing is exactly what it sounds like.
You manually close off one nostril, inhale through the other, then close that one and exhale through the first, repeating the cycle.
Right, and by mechanically forcing the breath, and therefore the oxygen intake and subtle energy to alternate between the left and right sides, you are physically forcing the left and right hemispheres of the brain to balance.
You are forcefully synchronizing the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Osman insists that practitioners must never skip this step. It is the ultimate safety valve before engaging in deep meditation.
Which brings us to the actual physical exertion he requires. Because if you think his physical preparation stops at a few gentle yoga stretches and some breathing exercises,
Yep.
you're in for a shock.
It goes way beyond flexibility.
It is borderline Olympian. He emphasizes a triad of physical fitness for anyone seeking spiritual growth. Flexibility through yoga or Pilates, cardiovascular endurance, and intense strength training.
He casually mentions that in his youth, he would jog 5 to 10 kilometers daily for his cardio.
But it's his strength training routine that completely stopped me in my tracks.
The volume he describes is indeed extreme, especially considering it is a home-based, bodyweight workout requiring no gym membership. He explicitly notes performing this routine even when it is -5 degrees Celsius outside in London.
Let's actually look at the numbers he provided, because they are hard to fathom. For his lower body, he does squats. 5 sets of 200 repetitions.
That is 1,000 squats.
1,000 squats. For his core, he details 5 specific variations of crunches. Forward, side, alternate, leg lifts, and reverse. He does 200 of each variation for 5 sets.
That is another 1,000 crunches.
And for his upper body, he does 5 variations of push-ups. Standard, wide arm, diamond pike, and shorties. He does 20 of each for 5 sets, totaling 500 push-ups.
And just to make it even more punishing, he advises keeping the rest breaks very short.
Between 30 seconds and 2 minutes.
Right. Exactly. So that the strength training simultaneously functions as a high-intensity cardiovascular workout.
When you break down those numbers, you have to ask, what is the physiological and spiritual purpose of this level of extreme endurance? 1,000 squats, 1,000 crunches, and 500 push-ups is not just about building muscle.
It is about systematically breaking down the ego through physical suffering and absolute discipline.
I am genuinely trying to wrap my head around doing 1,000 squats. Are you telling me that a brutal workout is actually a spiritual practice? Because it sounds more like military boot camp than meditation.
It sounds punishing.
How does physical exhaustion lead to spiritual awakening?
It leads to awakening by fundamentally altering your state of consciousness. When you are on squat number 800, your superficial mind, the part of you that worries about answering emails or what your neighbors think of you or your general anxieties, is completely silenced.
It has to be. You're just trying to survive the set.
Yes, the sheer physical demand forces your awareness entirely into the present moment. Your brain enters a state of transient hypofrontality.
Transient hypofrontality.
Yes, where the prefrontal cortex, the seat of the ego and analytical thought, essentially shuts down to conserve energy for basic survival and movement. You are no longer thinking, you're simply experiencing.
Osman is using extreme physical stress to bypass the analytical mind.
You cannot build a mind capable of holding the massive energetic charge of samadhi without building a biological vessel capable of enduring incredible stress.
So the body is the grounding wire, and he is making that wire as thick and resilient as humanly possible. He is building an ironclad mind-body connection on his living room floor.
Exactly.
So if we put this all together, we have a mind sharpened to a razor's edge by thousands of hours of reading complex fiction. We have a nervous system balanced by hatha yoga and alternate nostril breathing.
And we have a physical vessel fortified by thousands of reps of extreme calisthenics.
The house is completely rewired, the fuses are upgraded, and the system is ready for the electricity. How exactly does the actual moment of awakening happen? How did all of this culminate for him at the age of 19?
The source material provides a very specific mechanical description of his first breakthrough. At 19 years old, Osman was given a specific mantra consisting of 16 names.
Okay.
He was instructed to repeat this exact mantra 1,728 times.
I'm incredibly hung up on that specific number. 1,728. Why such a mathematically precise, almost arbitrary-sounding number? And what does repeating a phrase actually do to the brain? Isn't a mantra just repeating a word over and over?
A mantra is much more than just a word. It is a specific acoustic vibration. In the ancient sciences, words are understood to carry distinct energetic frequencies.
So it's about sound waves.
Yes. When you repeat a sound thousands of times, the vibration resonates through the cranial cavity, stimulating the vagus nerve and directly altering your brainwave patterns.
Moving you from active beta waves down into meditative alpha and theta states.
Exactly. As for the number 1728, while the sources don't break down the specific numerology, precision in these practices is usually about duration and cognitive load.
Meaning you have to pay attention to the counting.
Exactly. To accurately count to 1,728 while simultaneously holding the concentration of the 16-name mantra requires an immense, unbroken chain of focus. You cannot let your mind wander for a single second or you lose the count.
It is the ultimate test of the single-pointed concentration he developed as a child reading those novels.
It perfectly bridges his childhood practice with his spiritual breakthrough.
Osman notes that the first session of this repetition took him about 3 hours to complete. 3 unbroken hours of intense, vibrating focus. But the key here is the immediate feedback loop.
Right, he says he felt profound bliss on day 1.
And within 2 months of this daily, rigorous repetition, he achieved full samadhi. The electricity successfully ran through the upgraded wiring.
His energetic pathways became so incredibly open and sensitive that his external environment alone could trigger a spontaneous awakening.
That sensitivity is the hallmark of a fully integrated awakening.
Yeah.
The energy is no longer something you have to force. It becomes a natural, responsive state of being.
And the way he illustrates this is one of the most fascinating parts of his entire story.
I love this part.
He talks about how, after achieving this state, he could simply be sitting in a Christian church during a prayer service, listening to the congregation sing.
The sheer energy of the music, the devotion, and the acoustic resonance of the praise would trigger a spontaneous state of nirvana,
He would literally collapse in a state of absolute bliss.
completely bewildering the priests who were left wondering how this uninitiated Muslim teenager was experiencing massive, uncontrollable spiritual ecstasy in the middle of their church. I love the raw, cross-cultural reality of that image. It completely strips away all the sectarian labels and religious dogma.
It beautifully strips away the dogma because it proves his core thesis. The mechanics of human consciousness and spiritual awakening are universal. They are physiological and energetic realities, not exclusive club memberships.
It doesn't matter what building you are sitting in, what text you read as a child, or what cultural label you wear.
If the internal technology, the focus, the energetic balance, the physical grounding is properly aligned, the awakening occurs. He experienced profound unity in a Christian church as a Muslim yogi because the frequency of devotion and acoustic resonance is a universal trigger for an open nervous system.
If we synthesize Osman's entire formula, it is shockingly straightforward, yet demands incredible discipline. It looks like this. Deep mindfulness developed through focused immersion, like reading complex fiction, plus strict physical balance achieved through hatha yoga, alternate nostril breathing, and extreme calisthenics, plus focused repetition using mantra or breathwork.
That equation equals a safe, reproducible spiritual awakening. He has engineered a reliable DIY protocol.
And what is truly remarkable is his dedication to making this accessible to you. Accessibility is clearly the driving mission of his later life.
He has spent decades tirelessly trying to simplify these incredibly complex, esoteric protocols into an actionable methodology. He is actively trying to revive a lost science to help modern society improve their health, their peace of mind, and their overall quality of life.
Let's make sure you know exactly how to access this information, because Osman gives the core foundational methods away entirely for free. You don't need to fly to an ashram.
No, not at all.
He has a 5-minute yoga and meditation program available directly on his website, yogawellness786.com. Furthermore, if you go to his YouTube channel, simply search for The Blind Muslim Yogi on YouTube. He has uploaded over 500 free videos.
He specifically recommends checking out his favorites playlist to find the exact pranayama protocols.
Which includes the box breathing techniques we touched upon.
And the Kriya protocols, which are the specific sequential actions designed to safely move energy through the body. He provides all the warnings, all the necessary safety steps, completely free of charge.
He also has a podcast channel on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, just search for The Blind Muslim Yogi and remember to follow his channel there.
It is a remarkable library of open-source consciousness training.
It really is. Now, he does offer more personalized, intensive guidance. If you want direct, one-on-one consultation, or if you want to access live, daily video lessons and online group sessions, he does have a Patreon channel linked on his website, which is a paid service.
And as we mentioned at the very beginning, his master-level quantum bioenergy healing services for critical care and terminal illness recovery are available at a premium level and a premium price.
Reflecting the intense energetic toll and high success rate of that specific work over 50 years. But he makes it abundantly clear. He never withholds the necessary foundational information for your own spiritual awakening behind a paywall.
The hundreds of YouTube videos contain everything you need to start the journey safely and independently. By offering the foundational knowledge freely, he embodies the ultimate anti-guru philosophy.
He is giving you the tools to become your own master. He is proving that you have the internal technology to elevate your own consciousness.
Exactly.
So, to summarize our deep dive today, you do not need to be wealthy to explore the absolute depths of your spirituality. You do not need to submit your free will to an institution or a guru.
By combining intense intellectual curiosity, even if that means relentlessly reading your favorite thriller novel with rigorous physical discipline and structured, scientifically balanced breathwork, anyone can safely explore their inner landscape.
Whether you are simply trying to find focus before a highly stressful corporate meeting, or you are seeking a profound, life-altering spiritual purpose, Osman's practical DIY approach proves that the tools for mastery are already in your house.
They are in your books.
They are in your breath, and they are waiting for you on your living room floor.
And as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Let's hear it.
If the intense focus required to read a Sherlock Holmes novel and the sheer physical grit of 1,000 squats can lay the precise neurological foundation for profound spiritual enlightenment, what other mundane, everyday activities in your life might actually be secret gateways to your own highest potential, just waiting for you to pay closer attention?